I think one of the really important things to understand about this is that with the bigger income differences goes more status competition, and in a way that adds to the pressure to consume. Our consumer societies keeping up with each other. There's a number of bits of research that suggest that inequality increases the desire to consume because your goods, they say something about you. You know, the fear that second-class goods show you're a second-class person. That kind of thing gets more worrying in more unequal societies. And a bit of evidence for this, there are a number of bits of evidence, but one rather interesting one is that in more unequal societies, people work longer hours. So in the more equal European countries, Norway, the Netherlands, they work 14 or 1,500 hours a year. In the USA, Canada, more unequal countries, it's anything from 1,800 to 2,000 hours a year. Huge differences in the length of the working year. And I think that is a reflection of how important it is to have more money to keep up. It also, of course, feeds into environmental problems and so on. So the last point I want to make is that just how much income differences change over time. In many developed countries, there was a huge rise in the amount of inequality during the, particularly the later 1980s. In the USA and Britain, a number of other countries saw these rises and a simultaneous growth of many of the social problems we've been talking about. This graph is simply what's been happening in Britain. These are the rises, very large rises in inequality under Thatcher in the later 1980s, early 90s, but then little or no change under subsequent governments. And so what we're experiencing now in our society are the long-term consequences of that rise in inequality, affecting teenage births, levels of violence, antisocial behaviour, and the other problems that we've mentioned. But the point I think I should end with is really saying that all this data makes the same basic point, that it's the inequalities, it's the differences between us that matter. It's not the average standards of living anymore, but where we are in relation to each other. Instead of thinking about raising the material standards, thinking about the material environment, we must be thinking about the social environment. And the key thing to remember there is that the determinant, if you like, of the social environment is the inequalities between us. And that means that we suddenly have a policy handle, if you like, on the psychosocial well-being of the whole society. We can make life qualitatively better for all of us by narrowing income differences. Thank you.